Hi everyone, I am the Beardy Red Viking and this is a contest entry for Metal Marty Mac, who is celebrating 600 subscribers. Welcome back to my channel everybody, thank you for watching. As I say, today I am posting a video in celebration of Metal Marty Mac, who has reached 600 subscribers. Very well deserved, Marty, congratulations, fantastic job. If you haven't yet watched Marty's channel, make sure you check it out. I'll leave a link for it down below. He's posting content at least once a week. He's always got plenty to show, plenty of new pickups to show, plenty of movies and stuff that he likes to show off as well. He started focusing on his movies a fair bit more on his channel as well as the music, so that's great to see. Really interesting channel, really nice guy, fantastic fella, well deserving of his 600 subscribers, and I thought I would join in today to celebrate his achievement. Obviously he is giving away a prize for it, but that's not the reason why we do these competitions. As has been said many times before by other members of the VC, the reason we do that is to show our support to our friends in the community, and Marty is most definitely a member of the community and one that is valued very much by all of us. So thanks very much, Marty, and let's get stuck into the challenge. So I say challenge, it's not really a challenge, although it was actually quite challenging thinking about it, to think, because what Marty has asked us to do is to, first off, is two-parted. He wants us to show 5 albums, bands or songs, or talk about 5 albums, bands or songs which are named after or related to a movie. And he also wants us to show off our 5 favourite films as well. So the 5 favourite films thing, that was tricky enough because I've got a lot of favourite films. I love movies as much as, probably not quite as much as music, I'll be honest, but I do love movies. They're probably my second favourite medium after music. So yeah, let's get started. So first off, I think Marty actually picked this one himself, but I had to pick it. It's got to be done. It was the start of it all. It was the start of metal. It was the first heavy metal record ever recorded, and it's fucking great. And it's an absolute classic film as well. So the album is Black Sabbath, by the band Black Sabbath, and there's also a song named Black Sabbath, as many of you will know as well. Came out in 1970, absolute classic of an album. No more introduction than that really needed, and it is, I assume the band named themselves after this film because it wasn't too long before. It was 1963 this film came out. It's a Boris Karloff classic. It's 3 different tales told over the course of the film. There's a tale about a call girl who's being stalked. There's a tale about a vampire monster that preys on his family, basically tries to kill his family. And then there's also one about a nurse who is haunted by the former owner of a ring that she wears. Fascinating film, absolutely brilliant movie poster, as you can see. And yeah, it's Boris Karloff, classic 60s horror film. So yeah, Black Sabbath. Black Sabbath. Next up, I have another album that I think was mentioned by Marty. As I say, I struggled a bit with this one, I've got to be honest with you, because my collection is a bit of a mess. I don't have it fully logged on Discogs or anything like that yet. I'm working on it, but it's a stalled work in progress because my CDs are all over the place. My records are all over the place, and as I say, I'm working on my loft to get that sorted into like my hub for everything, but at the minute stuff's everywhere and it's a bit of a challenge to dig stuff out, so it's not as easy for me as it might be for some of you. But yeah, so I went with Iron Maiden with the song Wicker Man from the 2000 comeback album Brave New World. It's actually one of my favourite Iron Maiden albums. It's the first Iron Maiden album I ever bought, first I ever listened to properly after the Best of the Beast. I love this album. I think it's great. I think it's probably the best they've put out since they came back with Bruce Dickinson and Adrian Smith anyway. I absolutely love it. I think it's a great album, and The Wicker Man is an absolutely fantastic song, and it's a classic film as well. As you can see, it was released in 1973 There was also a slightly dodgy version that came out in 2006 with Nicolas Cage screaming about the bees, which has become a meme over the years. But yeah, the classic Wicker Man, 1973, directed by Robin Hardy. I think most people who have any interest in horror films or anything of that nature will probably have seen this film. It's a classic, and Wicker Man is a fantastic song by a fantastic band as well. Next up is Evil, and it's a song from their debut album, Enter the Grave. The song is called First Blood. Track 3 on the back there, and yeah, everyone knows Rambo. First Blood is the name of the film. Came out in 1982, starring Sylvester Stallone. Went on to make 3 in the series. Initially, there was another one 5-10 years back or so, but I've never seen that one, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's First Blood. There's First Blood Part 2. Missed an opportunity there. Surely should have just called it Second Blood, right? But we didn't. First Blood 2. But yeah, this is named after First Blood. Evil, fantastic thrash band. This album is great. I'm not overly keen on anything they've done since. I think the second album was okay, but then they've tailed off a little bit. Unfortunately, the original bassist died quite a long time ago now, back in the late 2000s or something like that. So that was a tragedy. And then there was Matt Drake and Old Drake, 2 brothers on guitar and vocals, and Matt Drake has now left the band as well. So it's a shame, because this album was absolutely brilliant. First Blood, it's a good tune. Does exactly what I've just said. It's a thrashing song. It's good fun. The album came out in 2007. I actually saw these guys in my local pub back in 2005, 2006. Didn't know they'd go on to be the quite well-known act that they then became. Tiny little pub called the Thatched House in Stockport, I saw them at. It was a great show with other bands, including Pitiful Rain, and my mates in a band called Bison Hammer played it as well. It was mainly thrash, but Bison Hammer definitely weren't a thrash band, but they were involved for some reason. But great day. Probably wouldn't have been there if Bison Hammer hadn't been, because they were my friends, and I'm glad I saw them. Great band, great song, fantastic film, absolute classic 80s action film. Now, anyone that knows me and has watched any of my videos in the past is going to know that I'm going to throw in this band wherever I can, as I'm a big fan of this band. And on this album, the classic 1991 sellout album, as it's known as, they released a song called The Unforgiven. I'm sure you might have heard it. Absolutely brilliant song. It's a bit of a ballad, but it's dark and there's foreboding. The music's great. The lyrics are great. The vocals great. It's an absolutely fantastic song. It's a classic. It's probably my favourite song on this album, to be perfectly honest with you. I do like Struggle Within, and that guitar solo is awesome. But yeah, anyway, The Unforgiven is what I'm talking about, and the film from 1992 is Unforgiven, so slightly different name, but basically the same. Starring Clint Eastwood, Morgan Freeman, Richard Harris, and who else was it? Gene Hackman. Classic 90s film, really strong film. So it's a Western. It's a good number of years since I've seen it, so I can't really describe it in great detail, but I know it's got a sort of a Western theme, and it's a great film, and highly recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it. As I say, from 1992, directed by Clint Eastwood. I don't know if it was, but I think it might have been one of his earlier directorship roles. But yeah, it's got a bit of an ensemble cast, and it's a great film. Definitely recommend checking it out if you haven't seen it already. And finally is this album from last year, Megadeth's The Sick, The Dying and The Dead. Quite renowned by a lot of people as the best album they've made in 20 or 30 years. I personally really enjoyed The System Has Failed from back in about 2004 or 2005, whenever that was. I'd say that's the best they've made since they came back after Dave Mustaine's injury. But this is a strong album, all the same. The song I've picked, though, is probably the cheesiest one on the album, and it is kind of chock full of cheese, but the right kind of cheese. The song is Mission to Mars, and the film is of the same name. Came out in 2000. I actually remember going and watching this at the cinema and thinking it was a bit of a turd, to be honest with you. I haven't watched it since, so I should probably go back and give it another watch. But it's a Brian De Palma film, so you'd expect better. Doesn't seem to have particularly great ratings. I'm looking at it here on IMDb. It's got a Metascore of 34, which isn't great. I should probably give it another go, but it stars Don Cheadle, Gary Sinise, I don't even know who that is off the top of my head, Tim Robbins, apparently. Really not that memorable. I did go and see it as a cinema, as I said. The main thing I remember about it is thinking it was crap and going home and Tremors was on with Kevin Bacon. Don't know why I've got to remember it. I've got a weird specific memory about weird things sometimes, very specific things from years ago. I remember when we got home, Tremors was on the TV and I watched that and it was so much better than what I'd just been watching. So, yeah, make of that what you will. So, next up is the challenge of deciding your 5 favourite films. Now, I'll be honest with you, I've got a fairly decent sized collection of DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff like that. Not as many as I used to have. I did get rid of some a few years back because I didn't have room for them. I don't really buy many of them anymore because of Netflix and all these streaming services. I can't afford to buy records and buy movies and all that kind of stuff, so I picked to buy music instead. I've still got a few, and I still occasionally pick the odd one up here and there, but yeah, there's quite a few that I couldn't find. So ones that I would have mentioned that I can't because I can't find them. There's stuff like True Romance. I love that film. There's Evil Dead 2, Evil Dead 3. I love that trilogy. Absolutely fantastic films. Some of the funniest, most enjoyable horror films that you will ever see. There's Seven with Kevin Spacey. Absolutely brilliant film. Kevin Spacey, Brad Pitt. Loads of others I could mention, but I can't find a lot of my DVDs right now because, as I say, my stuff's all over the place. I can't find a load of my DVDs and Blu-rays, so I'm going to go with the ones that I could find. So first up, music related. Bit of a cheat because it's a box set of both of them. Wayne's World 1 and 2. I know a lot of people say the first one is much better than the second one. I really enjoy both of them. I would put them both on a par with each other. I think they're both great films. Good fun. I loved them when I was a kid. Even when I wasn't into metal and rock music, and I think it was written in the stars for me to get into rock and metal music because this was my favourite film as a child. Absolutely loved it. Still love it to this day. Brilliant, classic comedy. Then we've got Pulp Fiction, Tarantino's second film. Stylistic, the dialogue, the intrigue, the fact that you don't know what's going on a lot of the time. Even at the end, you don't really find out exactly what's going on. The way the story moves all over the place, I think it's great. I know a lot of people say Tarantino rips off a lot of Japanese sort of style cinema from years gone by, but I don't care. I've not seen a lot of that stuff. I probably should get into it and watch some of that stuff, but I haven't seen a lot of that stuff. So yeah, for me, this is an absolute brilliant film. Then the rest of them are actually kind of comedy themed that I've found. So there's Mars Attacks, which is daft science fiction comedy horror, I guess you could call it. I love this film. Again, great cast, great film. It's funny, it's entertaining. The aliens are cool. I watch it quite regularly. Mars Attacks, absolutely fantastic. Then there's Shaun of the Dead. Again, another comedy film, comedy horror, I suppose you could call it. Part of the Cornetto trilogy, as they've been coined. Great film. I love Simon Pegg as an actor. I loved him in Spaced back in the 90s on the TV. I'll watch anything with him in it. I think the guy's great. And I love this film. And yeah, not much more to say about it. Everyone knows this film. Fantastic. Really enjoy it. And yeah. Finally, apart from my little cheat, which I'm going to bring in a moment, is going to surprise a few people maybe because yeah, it's not going to rank highly on IMDb. It's probably got one of the worst scores on there out of anything that I will pick. Probably out of everything that I own, but I love it. Freddy Got Fingered with Tom Green. It's stupid It's absolutely fucking stupid, and I love it. I love stupid humour. Just daft, moronic fucking idiocy all the way through for about an hour and a half. And yeah, that's going to put a load of people off. But for me, I fucking love it. It's great fun. I will always quote this film. Absolutely fucking hilarious. And I've been watching it now for about 20 years since I first saw it. My mate worked at a video shop. The first time I ever saw it, and we watched it, I was sat with him while he was doing a shift, and we watched Freddy Got Fingered. And I borrowed it from the video shop. Do you remember them? Took it home, and I never actually gave it back because that video shop closed down not too long afterwards. So I've got it on VHS somewhere, I think. But yeah, I love this film. It's ridiculous, it's stupid. Everyone's going to call me a dickhead for liking it, but I fucking love it. And then finally, I couldn't go away without mentioning the greatest series of all time, Star Wars. The saga, this is the complete saga as it was at the time, without the sequels. So this is the original trilogy, which is obviously the best three films out of all of them. The first three, you can't fault any of them. They're absolutely fucking great. The prequels, they came out when the first one came out in cinemas when I was a kid, 1999, I was 15, I went to watch it at the cinema. Jar Jar Binks pissed me off, but other than that, I really enjoyed the prequels. I thought they were really good. There's some awful dialogue in there, like the scene with Anakin Skywalker and Padme on Naboo with the "I don't like sand" conversation. Became a meme. Pretty much that whole film became a meme. But you know what? For what they are, I enjoy them. I think Phantom Menace is a better film than it's given credit for. I think overall, the second one is probably the weakest of the three. Revenge of the Sith, I love that film. But I'm not of the same age of a lot of people who absolutely despise it. Sequels, I enjoyed The Force Awakens, but it went rapidly downhill from there. I actually really enjoyed Solo, and I thought it was great. It was a heist movie set in the Star Wars universe. What's not to like? And obviously Rogue One was fantastic as well. But yeah, I had to mention that. I know it's a little bit of cheat because it's a sixth plus another 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, depending on how many you want to count. But Star Wars, I absolutely adore Star Wars. It's fucking fantastic. So that's my entry to the competition. If you haven't seen Marty, as I say, take a look at the link down below. Go and hit him up. He's fantastic. His channel's great. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave me a like. It really does help with the channel if you could do that. Take care. I'll see you all very soon. Beardy Red Viking, out.